Kutam milunudi zuabid, Kararnam. Welcome to the dimension of destiny, and more precisely, the continent of muscle. To the east lie the twisted nests of the Basin Elves, tall as trees and silent as jaguars. To the west dwell the Fey Watchers of Pale Swamp, fetid wielders of watery magics that stray all too close to the forest of sloth. But at the fifth cardinal, perched atop the jungle of basins, pinched betwixt the tall mountains of the blotted crest and the ice-topped peaks of the full barbs, we find Relic Shimmered, mountain home to the fresh-spawned dwarves of the Razes Kell. High walls and proud towers astride the mighty Atir Lushon, a shining jewel of the dwarven nation. Were you to travel but 2 short days north, through the Auburn jungle and over the Hill of Weight, you would find yourself at the Silken Waters. And on the shore of this calm body stand 7 noble souls with a vision of greatness, of enterprise, and quite possibly of not a small amount of dwarven hanky-panky. Now then, continuing the introductions, I am Phlegm Crevice, divine creator and scholar, and the lakeside hive, abuzz with activity below, is Laborlured. Not much to look at yet, but just you wait. And what's this? Ah, more beautiful charcoal work by Fath, our resident lumberjill. She's really captured the majesty of the Silken Waters. Bearing the resemblance of a dwarf of 82 years, she's as creative as a brace of bunnies, but her grasp on reality wouldn't strangle a pigeon. Off she goes, away with the fairies, cute as a button. And here's Solon, a terribly awkward individual, but she does so love books and numbers. Oh, she's off! She's a very particular dwarf, which helps with the bookkeeping. And she's moved that bull an inch to the left. Much better there, Solon, I have to agree. Oh, not quite done. That rabbit causing problems. Yes, that seems to have done the trick. Oh, look! It would appear that Locum has begun a little burrow with the assistance of Nil and Tegel. And if I'm not mistaken, they've used the digestive system of a goat as a guide. How wonderful! Well, perhaps now would be a good time to talk of the intentions of our industrious little friends. Our expedition leader Nish, the huge, heavily muscled warrior over there picking flowers, remembers being born to wealthy parents in the upper echelons of dwarven society. He can recall playing in Relic Shimmer's loftiest towers, knocking elbows and quite often heads with the dwarflings that would become the leaders of the many guilds and temples that served none but the elite. He laments the many years wasted toiling, scrabbling to the top of the dog pile in a rat race of a dog-eat-rat world. Burnt out and used up, his lifetime of backstabbing and betrayal leaving a burnished scar upon his very soul. I say remember and recall because of course he didn't exist until 5 minutes ago, but he doesn't know that, and his fabricated past is causing some entertainingly genuine grief. So yes, a lifetime of struggle and woe. Nish caught wind of an expedition to the calm tranquility of the Silken Waters, relieved the then leader of his head and position, and set off for a cleaner, simpler future. There was some talk of the rich deposits of metals, a desperate need for weapons and armour, the impending downfall of the dwarven capital to bloodthirsty elves, but Nish is here for flowers. As for the others, for now, let us just say that they are happy to be away from their own fictional pasts and leave it at that. Well now, would you look at this? Locum, Nil and Degel have done a wonderful job clearing out all that dirt and soil. They've even gone so far as to erect some wooden block rooms to keep the worms at bay. Not the most spacious of spaces, but I have it on good authority that their efforts are directed elsewhere. Let's give them a little time and see how it pans out. Ah, yes, nice and homely, or at least preferable to sleeping in the rain. Wait a minute. Oh no, I was thinking this might happen. Note the ratio of dwarf to furniture, particularly beds. Yes, that will be Locum's doing and no mistake. A self-proclaimed love machine, Locum has all the sex appeal of a sock full of custard. A greasy, lustful oversharer with a single-minded drive to lie to himself and the world, with only the former bearing half a chance at success. I can only imagine how he believes this ruse should succeed. As a matter of fact, it would appear Fath has thought ahead. Very atypical for her, but I agree with the necessity. Moving on, a need for stone has led the dwarves down. Here you can see their little budding strip mine. We'll check back once they've made more of a dent. Now here is where the effort is truly focused. A trade depot within its very own room attached to what the dwarves plan to be a tavern for visitors. I doubt the building will be complete before the dwarven wagons arrive to trade, but the depot itself should suffice for this year. Solon has made some noise regarding keeping her office up here, which shouldn't be too difficult to do. I think the fact that we're storing all items in a big pile on the floor is causing her some issues. Once the infrastructure is settled, I'm sure everything will be packed away neat and tidy. I don't think she's convinced. Now take a look at this.
Ark, these mere specks of sentience drift aimlessly upon yon pale blue dot in a vast and indifferent cosmos. Their existence, a fleeting blip amidst cosmic chaos, fated to be lost in the annals of time. A game of hide-and-seek bereft of seekers, wherein they scurry, seeking fervently for purpose, while this world revels in their futile toils. An embrace, soothing yet chilling, of eternal nothingness lies afore, wherein their struggles and aspirations dissolve into the abyss, lost to oblivion's siren call.
Ha ha! Hilarious, no? Perhaps I should explain. This morose Moggy is a little more than she may appear. Whilst fiddling with the fundamentals of world generation, I came upon a particularly uppity little sea demon, and it amused me to obliterate its form and mould its essence into this cat. Nicey little chance of it exploding as it threatened. Indeed, the only vestiges of its previous existence are its unfeline love of water and its propensity to ponder in poems. The dwarves have decided to name it Puddlekins, which just fills me with delight. Oh-ho! The supply caravans have arrived. With barely minutes to spare since the trade depot was erected. Good job there, dwarves. No, but what's this? It appears we've been graced by the presence of the Queen Consort. Acting as a liaison to the mountain home? What on... bear with me. Bedroom... DIY mishap... few days away to fix. So it would appear our King Law was practicing his crossbow throwing for the summer celebration of Silver in their bedchambers. He got drunk, or, well, more drunk, and decided that the issue with his aim was not down to the mushroom wine, but instead the fact that the bows were not loaded, suggesting a delightfully poetic intent on the part of an inanimate object that nevertheless resulted in the loss of 2 gem windows, the gain of multiple unmentionable stains, and the king's sudden need for a tan-brown hamster to prevent a tantrum spiral. DIY mishap indeed. Well, be welcome whatever the reason for your visit, your highness. Oh dear, she's gone to talk to Nish. This is exactly the sort of scenario he was picking flowers to get away from. Hold it together, old horse, it's just a bit of fort admin. Squeeze your emotional support, Daffodil. That's a dwarf. So, let's see what's what. Ah, trade requests. Lovely. We'll get some silk, some cloth, some seeds, and a little yarn. At exorbitant prices, how wonderful. In return, they would like us to focus on tanned hides and footwear. I'm not really planning on a booming clothing empire, but we can maybe work something out. Nanu Zishon, farewell, your highness. With that done, I suppose it's time to drag Nish out of his monarch-induced fetal position and get to some haggling. I was a little concerned regarding the distinct lack of trade goods, apparently a concern shared by Solon, as she asked the others for ideas. Degel saved the day, drawing attention to the collection of pretty rocks that Nil had been gathering, shaping, smoothing, and polishing in her spare time. Not the most valuable of baubles, but with the handful of professionally cut white chalcedonies Degel added, and a little wine, we've got some coin to play with. And it would appear we will be using that coin to mostly invest in a better caravan next year. What a disappointment. The most exciting additions were a tomcat in a zinc cage and some cow cheese, so named for the picture of a cow on the packaging. Lord only knows what creature could produce such greasy lumps. The cow is laughing, as well it might. Farewell, traders. May your fare be more so upon the next visit. I've given the dwarves a little bit of time to make some progress, and they haven't disappointed. Nil discovered the beginnings of a tetrahedrite vein, which was upstaged almost immediately by Locum discovering a vast cavern underground. Nil and Degel had to carry him out, and poor dwarf was white as milk. It transpires that he was digging almost directly down when his pick burst through the ceiling of the hollow, and the floor gave way. Degel found him dangling by his boots, his scream, hoarsened voice reduced to a meep. Taking a look at the cavern, I can see some real potential. Lots of lovely flora to collect, steady-ish, and the space to really spread out and get comfortable. I can even detect the subtle susurration of subterranean springs. But further delving will have to wait, because there's the distinct buzz of new life in the air. Indeed, winter has ended, and with it passes our first year with the dwarves of Laborlured. Noting a few things that happened off-screen, as it were, Fath continues to be a delight. She's been scribbling away, as we've not had much need for wood, and created this absolute masterpiece of mindfudgery. Supposedly it's Nish, though seeing as he's neither bald nor that flexible, I think we'll have to take her word for it. Speaking of Nish, he and Solon are together. Although how they consider themselves lovers when they share a room with Locum, I'll never know. Perhaps they've taken to utilising Solon's office, which is all finished now with a very solid lock. All told, we're doing rather well. So for now, with the warmth of a new year upon us, we say a short-lived goodbye to the calm serenity of the silken waters. We shall return, have no worries. Anu Zeshon, farewell, my friends. Why's Fath cut all that wood?
I says it don't matter how much soap you got, his legs are gone.
Hello?
Oh, hello, you're through at the Deity Helpline. My name's Snodford. How can I help?
Oh, yes, hello. I'm just calling about the infinite cosmic power I purchased.
All right, can I get your name?
Oh, of course, yes. Phlegm Crevice.
Any middle name?
What? Oh, Margarine.
Right.
So, I purchased...
Can I get the 3rd, 5th and 7th digits of your personal security number?
Oh, yes, 194, 3.2 million, and, 2.
Mother's maiden name?
Ziggurat of Molten Sky.
Great stuff. Now, before we get started, I'm obliged to advise that all calls are committed to everlasting memory by the sentient void for training purposes. How can I help you today, almighty Crevice?
I purchased a new infinite cosmic power from you, and it seems to be malfunctioning.
Well, that's not good. Let me take a look here. Oh, I see the problem. You bought a refurbished ICP. They're like new at half the price.
Well, I could have sworn I paid full price.
That's inflation for you. So what's the old girl doing exactly?
Well, nothing overly untoward. It just seems to be making my dwarves dig holes.
Dwarves digging holes? Blimey, what's next? Elves loving trees?
No, I mean, things have just been odd since I turned a demon into a cat.
Oh, I see. Well, that clears things right up.
So it is that?
No idea, but I can tell you we can't help you.
Why ever not?
It's your insurance. Doesn't cover Exegod.
Kutam Melunurizu Amid. Welcome. As you just heard, things are a little strange on the banks of the silken waters. What you're seeing right now is the aftermath of Fath's failing frenzy. I've had to put a stockpile on the surface for all the lumber. There just isn't room for it in the little burrow. Worse than that, once Fath and Degel started moving logs, Locum began digging holes. Damned if I know why. But I have resolved to push on with general fortress matters. The first of which is not wanting to be caught with our pants down this autumn. Relics shimmered want footwear, by golly we shall give them footwear. It has come to my attention that our pure pedigree pals have proudly produced a pack of playful puppies. And forgive me for showing my cigarette-smoking 1950s fashion designer, but that sure is an awful lot of leather. We'll keep the parents for stock futures, but if somebody could come and collect the little ones... Let's give them a minute. The deed is done. I think it best we keep the actual perpetrator of the Year 3 puppy slaughter nameless. Punishment enough to have the little yelps haunt their nightmares. But here we are, copious amounts of workable skin and usable meat, which we'll deal with by asking somebody to cook up some fine meals. Preferably when no one else is watching. And the finished product. Locum suggested naming them shush puppies, winning himself no friends. I mean to create a stockpile specifically for them to make things easier come autumn, but I've just noticed Locum running out with his pick again, and, well, watch this. Did you see it? Hang on, I'll just force time to submit to my will. Look, it's those damnable cats. Oh yes, I don't know how they're doing it, or why they're doing it, or even what it is they are doing. I think I need to go lie down. Where's my flannel? Here. Oh, my brains are aching. Right behind the third eye. Oh, that's better. This is future Phlegm. I've set myself for a nap to recharge. Oh, hang on. Remember to lie on your side and not your back. Sorry. That's better. Heartburn's a killer when you've got 4 of them. Now, where were we? Yes, Locum and his hole, which appears to be square now. Lovely. Blech. Oh, my me, what is that awful stink? It's coming from the butcher's workshop. Did nobody wipe down the surfaces? I know we've got soap. We made it from the dog fat. Wait, why is the workshop still filled with unprepared meat? I know there are important things to do around the place, but did we really butcher all those puppies and then only use their skins? I wouldn't mind, but the stockpiles are literally magic. All we had to do was drop the spoilable items practically on the floor beside the workshop, and we'd have been saved the need to aerate. Well, the mess has been cleared at least. I think I've discovered what the issue was. Seems that nobody was quite happy with the idea of Solon being locked in a tiny room on the surface, and so were loath to use the main stockpile in some sort of bizarre solidarity. Message very much received. I've added build and organise a proper storeroom to my to-do list. In the interim, I have suggested moving furniture into our tavern a little earlier than planned. That should allow for Solon to have company. It's difficult to do much more, as every waking moment seems to be earmarked for relocating that forest Fath took offence to. We are probably going to need to start inviting migrants to join us if things don't calm down a little. For now, Fath has been tasked with making some simple wheelbarrows to literally lighten the load. As she toddles off with a look of excitement altogether too intense for menial work, I've just had a fantastic idea to lighten our dwarves' moods. I've set Degel to it, so let's give her a moment. Toot tooty toot! Statues! Simple dolomite for now, as it's what we had to hand, but they should do nicely to brighten up the place and distract from the lingering smell of dog rot. Now, I had planned for Degel to create the pieces, but Locum all but begged to be given a chance, and you know what? He's absolutely outdone himself. Here you can see it, a well-crafted dolomite statue of Serol Bodice Steel the Silvery, the dwarves' own fictional deity of crafts and metals, striking a contemplative pose. You see him holding up the middle-squeezed toothpaste tube of squabbling, a symbol of good luck, standing with his left foot hand forward, resting back on his monkey-like mess of a posterior. It's interesting, elegant, and incredibly well done. There might actually be some hope for you yet, Locum. On to the two pieces that Degel has created, we have a statue of some geese. At least, I think they're geese. They don't appear to have heads. Perhaps she's gone for surrealism. Well, on to the next one. So this is Nish. Absolutely no ignoring his royal bearing, and he's surrounded by giant snails? No, Degel informs me that they are slugs. I tried to convince her that slugs are the ones without shells, and her exact words were, "Why give something a different name just because they put a hat on?" I can honestly say I was struck speechless. So yes, this magnificent shrine to our expedition leader now sits in our humble dining room. It's done a fantastic job at distracting from the smell, but the sound of Solon's teeth grinding during meal times has become something of a bother. Nish doesn't seem to mind it, although he thinks it needs more flowers. Oh, Fath has reappeared. Oh, she's been gone an awfully long time, but now she's back with the wheelbarrows. Oh, make that wheelbarrow singular. She's been gone a month. How is it that she only has the one By the roots of the mountains. That might be the single most beautiful piece of woodworking I have ever seen. A barrow fit for a king, though it honestly looks like it would balk at ferrying even the crown jewels. Nobody else seems to notice the blasphemy of using such an item. Degel got straight to it. Bizarre dwarves. One complaint would obviously be the volume of barrows. We could do with a handful more, but Fath has popped back off to make more, so I suppose that should sort itself out. Oh, good! The caravans have arrived. Once they've set up, we'll get our things up to the trade depot. I'm really hopeful that they'll be blown away by our footwear. Me knows that we dealt with enough nonsense to make them happen. Oh, and hello again, Your Majesty. You know, I'm starting to think our Queen Consort uses her position to get a little space from her husband's insanity. What is it he's doing right now, I wonder? Ah, priceless jewel-encrusted jug skittles. The object seems to be to whack the upturned young of a local endangered tortoise population at the jugs with his ceremonial sceptre of majesty. The tavern is just through those doors, drinks beside the tables, Your Highness. No? Straight to business. Wonderful. We're going to request some cows and sheep. Vegetables are all well and good, but when you work as hard as these dwarves, you need protein. Next year, Relic Shimmered wants seeds. Any particular seeds? It doesn't say. Well, Nish will be happy. He gets to keep busy gathering. Anu Zashon. Till next year, Your Majesty. Now, on to the fun of trading proper. Obviously we have the footwear, but I added more cut white chalcedonies, some prepared meals, and a surprising addition. Locum has been beavering away with the puppy bones, and has made some actually rather fetching bone gems. With Nil's latest batch of polished rocks, all kept conveniently together under a loose floorboard below Nil's bed, I'm very excited to see exactly what we can get. And it's an impressive haul. Multiple bags of seeds, some silk cloth, yarn, and a hodgepodge of different pieces of armour. I don't suspect any fighting will be on the horizon, but it's better to have it and not need it than die a horrible splatty death. And with that we bid a fond farewell to the traders. Oh, and note that our queen consort has decided to stay and grace our new little tavern. The Armoured Peach is a simple watering hole, so a queen's blessing is more than we could hope for. Oh, and we have some more of Degel's statues. Yay. Let's take a look. 2 of them. The first is a superior quality dolomite statue of dwarves. The dwarves are labouring and blah blah blah. The real piece of interest is this second statue. It's another piece dedicated to Nish, and it's remarkable mostly for the fact that it barely fits in the room. I mean, look at it! His simulacrum is 3 times taller than all the others. It is clearly to be seen in a positive light. Despite the fact he looks like a hairy pig in one of Fath's wheelbarrows. And the most outrageous part? She's put it opposite Solon's office. Now that it's in situ, there isn't much more to do but squeeze past it on the way to the trade depot. Perhaps we should invest some time in vetting the decorations in future. Oh, for heaven's sake, speak of the sea demon, Fath's back with another single wheelbarrow. This one is so intricate and over-designed as to be practically unusable. Yes, thank you again, Oh, she's gone. Now, I was planning on showing off the first floor of our tavern trade house when I noticed that our little Laborlured had grown a little. Allow me to introduce Kubak, Dodok, and Kib, a knot of new dwarves that have migrated from the south. We shall get to know them fully in time, of course, but why not let's take a quick look at them. Kib here is a spinner, which, considering our request for sheep from the traders, should mean he'll come in very handy. He seems a little aloof and, shall we say, spirited? No, call a spade a spade. He's downright rude, but I'm sure he'll settle in. Dodok the glassmaker. I'm not certain we can find the sand, but he's also a bit of a gem cutter, so perhaps we can utilise him making some gem windows. Certainly a thought. The dwarf himself is almost as big as Nish, something Fath seems to have wanted to convey by drawing him in armour. But from what I can see, our Dodok is more of a lover than a fighter. That just leaves Kubak. Apparently she's handled adamantine strands, which is to her credit, but her true skill seems to be in trading, which is excellent, as I was beginning to worry that Nish was going to start refusing to do it. She claims she's creative, but I feel if you have to tell people, then you probably aren't. She seems to currently be attempting to get into our Queen Consort's good graces by listening to Her Highness talk about herself. Provided she does her fair share of lumber lifting, I don't see a problem with that. Well, we've reached another winter, and with no more strange happenings, I'm glad to say. With the calm, we've even been able to finish up the tavern's upper floors and roof. We're familiar with the ground floor, so let's go up. Here we have a simple temple to no particular gods, with a couple of statues that Degel cobbled together of some forgotten beasts. Off the temple is a summer veranda, and 2 guest bedrooms. Up once more, and we see that the temple is particularly high-ceilinged, with a simple window of fortifications to the south to allow in some diffused light. Yes, it's a wonderful little structure that should do Laborlured well for a few years, whilst we plan out our underground fortress. What is that sound? What? They've dug out all of this? They're digging more? Oh, I've had enough of this. Move over me. I'm coming to bed. Oh no, come on. You always hog the blanket. Kotam Melody Zuamid. Welcome, friends. I've got some wonderful news, but first I feel I should warn you that things might get a bit noisy in the background today. I've just purchased something, and the company have sent a couple of workmen round to set it all up for me. They'll be in and out, but I have impressed upon them how important it is that I have quiet. Oh my!
No, you pebble-brained stack of silicon.
Has been squished.
To the plant, not on
Ah
the
well,
plant.
on to the news. As you know, I was struggling somewhat with the dwarves when last we looked in on Laborlured. They dug their big hole, and for the life of me I couldn't figure out why. But I finally worked it out. Do you see it? It's a stage, set in the land to keep it out of the lakeside wind, up on struts for easy dismantling. Clearly, I have had a positive influence on our little dwarven thespians. With the prospect of Shakespearean oration in the future, I simply had to invest in a better sound system. Which brings us to that racket. Still can't believe he brought a rock troll. Though I've got nothing against rock trolls, of course. Salt of the earth, sometimes literally. Come in. Right, Mr. C. Graham will bring the rest of your system inside, I hope. Then we'll just set to finding the best places for the speakers for that full surround sound experience. Wonderful. But I feel I must stress that I'm going to need quiet whilst you proceed. Oh, that's a shame for you. I have been known to whistle while I work. Well, I suppose I could retire to my study. All right. Here. There wouldn't happen to be a kettle in there, would there? A kettle? No, of course not. No. Well, what about the kitchen? Well, yes, of course there's a kettle in the kitchen. Lovely! I'll have a cup of tea, milk and 3 sugars. I shall have cup. You drink tea? No. Am peckish. Oh, well, fair enough. That's 2 cuppers, 1 sans pas. And since you mention it, I wouldn't say no to something to nibble on. I'll get the kettle on. Ooh, is this your world?
What?
Don't mention a destiny.
Yes,
think much of yourself.
That is my world.
Quite the undertaking those dwarves have undertook. Oh, yes, quite. Oh, sorry about the wait. I had the kettle on before I remembered I'm a god with the ability to manifest anything. I thought that dwarves couldn't float. Well, they aren't known for swimming particularly well, this is true, but they only live by the lake, they don't go in, and honestly, with the plays, I imagine they won't look twice at other forms of entertainment. Oh, it's a stage! That's what the sound system's for. Precisely. That seemed pretty dumb to me. I beg your pardon? Yeah, what are you on about, you walking clod? I just saying. Why take all that time to build a ship if you's not gonna take it out on the lake? A ship? Oh dear. Well, I have withdrawn to my study. Not even the smell of old books and pipe smoke can soothe me, though, I fear. A blasted boat! Of all the ridiculous things to build! No, calm yourself, Phlegmathy. There are fortress matters to attend to, so let's get started. The first of which is the addition of 2 new migrants, a married couple by the names of Mebzuth and Thob. Mebzuth is an incredibly talented gem cutter and setter. I already see Nil going to him for pointers. He is very bluff and incredibly loud, which is rather unpleasant, but the dwarves spending all their damn time out on the surface with their blasted boat... Mebzuth's wife, Thob, is as far from different to her husband as it is possible to be. Quiet, polite, and pusillanimous, which in fact means timid. because there's a group that really needs a lengthy descriptor that sounds like a dictionary sneezing. She says she's overbearing, but that sounds far too much like Mebzoth talking. I think it ultimately good that Fath seems to have taken a shine to her. As for what she can do, we did ask, but she was far too modest to opine, so we've got her making wood blocks with her new friend. With this pair, and the fact that I'm sure there shall be more new faces, Locum, Nil and Degel have begun work on some new sleeping quarters. Individual bedrooms, no less. And yes, I pushed for the spaces to be underground to get the dwarves away from that ridiculous project on the surface. The fact that I had to push at all should go some way toward proving the weirdness at work on the Silken Waters. Oh, and regarding the boat, I figured if you can't beat them, at least make them build a shipyard shack next to the dry dock to expedite the process. I don't for a moment see a use for a large-masted galleon on a landlocked lake, but if I don't lean into this, I feel I will go mad. Oh, what's this? Caravans already? How the time flies. By all means, visit the boat before coming in. It's not like we've been waiting a year. Hello, as usual, your highness. What is it this year? King throwing ancient scrolls at flamingos? Oh, straight to business as usual. What do we want next year? You know what? I'm feeling malicious. More cow cheese. Oh, fine, and we'll get some iron. Our glorious relic Shimmered requires splints and goblets, probably for the king to juggle. Anu Zesh... No, she didn't stick around this year. Wonder what's crawled up her doublet. To trading, anyway. We've cobbled together the usual conglomerate, if you'll excuse the puns. So what can we get? Caged cows and sheep. What utter nonsense is this? Yes, we asked for cows and sheep, and yes, I understand that you only brought the one horse, but I can't help but think a length of rope and the livestock's own working legs might have allowed you to bring more than just a few animals and not cripple your horse. Are the dwarves on this plane of reality dropped on their heads at birth? Never mind, never mind. Let's just get these animals into the field at least. They're how much? Are they special sheep? Do they perhaps share themselves? No? Oh, then why? The difficulty of fulfilling our order. So we're to pay 10 times their worth because you forgot that sheep can walk. It's at times like these that I wish the dwarves could actually hear me. I guess we're buying the sheep. And you know what? I'm not letting a breeding pair of beeves go either. Let's dig a little deeper into our supplies and get them. Still not enough. Okay, deeper still. Good. No, I'm not buying the rest of the animals. I don't care how knackered your horse is. And no, you aren't getting the traditional dwarven farewell. Push off, you jelly-brained thieves. And I've just remembered we already had a bull. I must have had my omniscience turned off. Ahem. Look! The dwarves have finished the shipyard shack. A lovely little building, I must admit. And you know what? I have to admit one other thing. Pointless and ridiculous and just plain stupid as the project is, the boat's not looking too bad either. They've completed what I believe is called the hold and are soon to start on the deck. Awful lot of room in there now I'm coming to look at it. I wonder if we could use the boat as a storeroom and not have to build that other one we had planned. Oh, And for those who might not be with me in my opinions, please allow me to remind you that Laborlured is on the banks of the Silken Waters, a landlocked lake, weeks of travel from the nearest decently sized body of water. Add to that fact that not a single dwarf here has ever even seen a boat before, coupled with everybody's inability to swim. Honestly, I'd say this was the cat's doing, but I'd have to ask, to what end? Speaking of ends, the dwarves are just about to add a little final flourish to the bedroom layer. We've some statues by Degel, both of which are of course of niche. But the thing I want to talk about is the interesting design our miners decided upon. It's a little stylized, of course, but still fairly easy to discern the shape of two recumbent figures laying top to tail beside one another. The dwarves have named it the Brothers Blue, after the story it is an homage to. The dwarves of the Razes Kel have many traditional folk tales, of which the Brothers Blue is certainly a part. Normally, I wouldn't recount a full tale, but it's notoriously short and hence goes like this. There were two brothers who, through a fairly uncomplicated series of events involving alcohol and the laughably small chance at promiscuity, found themselves in a drafty shack and their underpants. They decided to snuggle for warmth, but their fragile masculinity led to top and tailing, hypothermia, death, and finally, sadly, ridicule. Well, I must say, the more I interact with the dwarves of this reality, the more I am minded of the old adage regarding stones and glass houses, or where mocking intelligence is concerned, anyway. But, morbid inspiration aside, I'm rather pleased with the result. It's a little bland, colour-wise, but it's warm and decidedly dwarvish. Oh, and while we're here, I think Degel might actually be getting worse. On to some surprisingly exciting news regarding the boat. Here we have it, with the upper deck completed. You can see I did indeed utilise this lovely space for storage. The neatness of it all really has this whole enterprise growing on me. Would I have preferred almost any other dwarf brain scheme? Undoubtedly. But one must make do. I'm thinking that perhaps there may even be a little too much space. With another floor's worth of area to play with, perhaps we could create a new mess hall for the dwarves to eat and play within. The deck is looking nice too. We've even got a couple of ballistae to discourage any third party from initiating an attack. Hear that, various assortment of modest lake-dwelling critters? As you can see from the stairs, there are plans for further building work, which we shall get to later, because I've just happened to glance toward the lake shore and I'm utterly baffled. Fish! A wall of fish lining the edge of the lake. I've thrown up a temporary stockpile nearby to clear them, but how on earth is it possible for our fisher dwarf to have caught so much? The cats are going mad, but that should come as no surprise considering. Where is our fisher dwarf? Who is our fisher dwarf? Oh, this is rather funny. It would appear that due to an amusing similarity in name to one of our better-known citizens, I have completely overlooked our fisher dwarf. They're called... Well, it's Olon, I know that much. But there's something strange going on with my notes. Blasted second-hand infinite cosmic power. Well, I don't need my notes to see that they're a legendary fisher dwarf. Probably something to do with my overlooking them, leading to 3 years of uninterrupted fishing. Seems wasteful to change their profession now, but we shall have to get a shack set up to process the fish. And there it is. Nothing fancy, just 4 walls and a roof. It's another superterranean structure, whatever its size, but we've more important things to focus on. Do you know, it's been a while since I've just stopped and watched Laborlured. So I'm only just now noting the rather ridiculous amount of cats we actually have. Just goes to show how badly things can slide when you're focused on the wrong things. We'll have to start up the butchering again. Oh, the Queen is back, with the traders not far behind. 2 visits in 1 year? But it's autumn again? Oh, really focused on the wrong things. Well, anyway, welcome. I would wait in the armoured peach, Your Highness. Or you can chase Nish around the boat. Certainly an option. There we are. Things are going to be a little rushed, I fear. We'll request cow cheese, not as a joke this time. It would appear the dwarves have grown quite fond of it. Beyond that, we are unbelievably self-sufficient. We've enough fish to feast for a year, and Nish has been busy gathering, so our drinks are holding firm. Relic Shimmered want toys and headwear. I see that impending elvish apocalypse is still causing concern. Oh yes, Anus Ashon, Your Highness. Now, I won't bore you with details about the trading. Suffice to say, we exchanged some rough gems for metal ingots. I would have liked to let Mebzath at them before we let them go, but time really has been running away from us. All the building and planning. I think we should calm things down for a year or so. Give everybody a nice long rest. Ha 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 ha! The Queen must have heard me. No rushing off this year, I see. Ah, well. With all that said, I think we've spotted a good time to put our metaphorical pens down. The dwarves have completed the little galley dining room on the boat, and it's getting to the point that I keep needing to rein in my excitement at seafaring escapades in our future. Oh, I don't know. Maybe we can get a dozen wagons between the supports and roll the thing to the sea. Silly idea. Oh, it's a busy little place, our Laborlured. I'm just so proud of the dwarves. Our ridiculous, industrious, swashbuckling little dwarves. With the soft sighing of the wind off the lake, we can relax into another fond farewell. Anus Ashon, my friends, Anus Ashon. Hello! No time for the traditional dwarven greeting, I'm afraid. I was setting up to give an overview of what I'm deciding to call Crev Fest, a season-spanning celebration of Laborlured and the deity that made it all happen, and I do, of course, mean me. Anyway, yes, I was all ready to proceed when I noted something that needs immediate attention. It would appear, somehow, for some ungodly reason, that Degel and Locum are Degel and Locum... No, I can do this. Degel and No, it's too horrible to voice. And every time I try, I imagine Locum's greasy little plum tree shaker, and find myself fighting the urge to be violently unwell. Now, I had been noting a distinct lowering in mood for our artistic little sculptor, assuming it had something to do with the quality of her work. It turns out no. Look at her. bright as a button now she's been wooed by Locum. No, this is Crevfest, by the way. Nothing fancy, just force the dwarves to stay within the confines of the fun zones of Laborlured. But anyway, yes, back to the new couple. If Degel has changed, it's nothing to the transformation that Locum has undergone. I mean, he's still a greasy, lustful oversharer with a single-minded drive to go cruising for top, bottom, his words. So, perhaps transformation is a little much. He started to bathe more often, which is to say, at all. So I'm still calling it a win for love. Or lust, anyway. Look at him, so filled with a zest for life that he's zipping around on the surface rather than relaxing in the armoured beach. What are all those cats doing? No, never mind, her quiet drink, What? Why does he keep running to check on the storage pots? Where is he going now? Oh, to bed. Wait, that's not... Oh my... No! Locum, why? You're in a relationship now, you dirty little... You'd better wash your hands. Where are you going now? No, Locum, no. Don't put it in the storage pots, you filthy... Yuck! No, don't put more in. Oh, I just... No, I can't. 14. He made 14 more trips to the storage pots on the boat. Now it's back to his room. Stocking back up, are we? That was odd. Almost as though Locum were awaiting orders given by the cats. And again, there. They're certainly very pervasive, but I doubt they're persuasive. Oh, hang on. Locum thinks he's going to store items, but he hasn't any. Just a pickaxe and the clothes on his back. You know, he had the same thought before, but I had sort of assumed his hands were, well, full. Finally going to relax with a good drink. It looks like he's grabbing a mug from the Armoured Peach, but partaking of the prickleberry wine on the boat. And crying about it. Or are they tears of shame? I'm watching you, dwarf. Ah, Nil, finally a dwarf that is being just as bizarre as Locum. What? Why is she stood in the corner on her own? Supposedly she's socialising. Oh dear, is this what dwarven depression looks like? Running between storage pots and mumbling to herself in a corner? Well, at least she's still eating. Oh, maybe it was a minor blip. She's heading to the Armoured Peach after all. Oh, just getting a mug. Well, perhaps alcohol will liven her up. I think not. At least Kib seems to be cutting loose. You'll note that he became our broker as opposed to Cubuck. He's just more talented at it. And the sheer amount of work to do has meant that Cubuck's lack of specialisation hasn't meant too much. Kib's still as rude as ever, telling the story of how Nish started Laborlured to a room filled with dwarves who were there when Nish started Laborlured. They seem to have taken it well, though. A decent enough oration will win out, I suppose. Perhaps they took it as flattery. Who knows? Perhaps it was even meant as such. I can't be too down on the fellow. He's one of those who's taken a liking to our quiet thob. It's mutual too, which is lovely. It is rather surprising, considering Kib's background, though. He used to be part of the priesthood. Well, sort of. An orphan left in the temple of Sedal Bodisteel the Silvery in Relic Shimmered's lower quarter. The old monk leader of the temple took him in and trained him.
Young Kib swiftly became versed in all 11 soundings of faith, including the uncle's nighttime lament, but was found wanting by his mentor, and subsequently beaten every day of his adult life. Thob just so happened to be the name of the old monk's stick. Look, you can see Kib's eye twitch every time Mebzoth shouts his wife's name. And yes, of course his past is as fabricated as those of any other dwarf in this realm. On that note, I've been hearing some nonsense regarding me being some sort of sick sadist. And to that, I say it's called having flawed characters. Much more interesting to watch a bunch of down-to-earth individuals dealing with their problems in a realistic manner than it is to see Mr. Both my parents loved me save the world with their rugged good looks. Which is another mark in Kib's favour, as he looks like a hairy potato. Talking of potatoes, Cubuck has spent the entirety of Crevfest so far praying to one of the dwarves' silly deities. How she's managing to get up a good level of piety with the dogs swarming her, I don't know. Ha! Apparently swarming was a good choice of word in this case, as the god she's praying to, Lurid Cresthearts, is a male cave spider god associated rather unsurprisingly with caverns and mountains. Though not quite to everybody's taste, I can't help but approve of the delightfully dwarvish associations. Even if she prays alone. Not even the terminally supportive Fath can muster up a few nice words to the leggy god. Speaking of Fath, here she is enjoying the festivities. She's been a little lax in her charcoal drawings of late, though she did do those 2 quick sketches for us of the Brothers Blue. I would like to see more from her, and I'm very hopeful that this downtime will give her the motivation to create again. But yes, here she is, perfectly happy to socialise with the majority in the Armoured Peach. Oh, come on! Not you too, Fath! What could you possibly be storing? See, nothing in her items to store. Oh, that's it! We're taking a look in these pots. Okay, here we go. Please don't be filled to the brim with mayonnaise. Fish. It's just fish. Well, okay, there's some other stuff, but this is fine. Even explains why the cats are back and two. Oh, what a relief! Do you know, I'd actually begun to believe that the cats were taking over. Silly, I know. Crevfest has been an absolute success. Everyone's mood has increased. Well, except for Nish, who was already giddy as a lottery winner. We'll let the dwarves welcome in the first sprouts of spring and then get back to work. It's impossible to deny now that I am excited to see the boat finished. Still a lot of work to do. Build some bedrooms, add a temple, finish the mast. Not forgetting the logistical hurdles outside of simply building the boat. Linking the supports to a lever, creating the sluices to fill the dry dock, clearing the land before the dock to allow the boat access to the lake. We're a good while from anything resembling a maiden voyage, and there's still the day-to-day running of a dwarven fortress to worry about. My yes, lots and lots of work to do. Then here our dwarves are, frolicking frivolously. Well, that's quite enough of that. Back to work. The first and most important thing to do is deal with everybody's craving for cow cheese. I'm being silly, of course. This being actual cheese from a cow. There's sheep cheese too. Have you noticed, if it isn't goat, mentioning the animal of origin just makes it sound icky? But at least it isn't locum cheese. Secondly, we have a small hospital. A well was something we didn't have, and the dwarves are all whinging about a lack of martial activities. So I figured it would be intelligent to have some healthcare arranged before we get them into groups to train. It's not done, really. Still needs a chest and some traction tables, but it's got a door to what I plan to be a little lakeside veranda, which is nice. Do you know, I could have sworn we had a decent medical dwarf. Never mind. No, and here's a look at the roof. Last and by no means least, here you can see the dwarves all banding together to establish precisely what I hadn't planned on. A booming clothing empire. 4 years with no replacements has it looking like the dwarves are wearing fishing nets, which does tend to sting the retinas. The burrow had to lose a few more internal walls, but the workshops fit in marvellously. Though it is terribly sad that my plans for subterranean living and working spaces never played out. And yes, I know they literally sleep and work below the surface for the most part, but I did have such wonderful plans for a proper dwarven fortress. Never mind, they'll just have to be plans for the future. I've tasked our little friends with clearing up the dog problem and adding leather to the wool we've gotten from the sheep. With these and a few spools of pigtail thread, we'll be up to our eyeballs in socks, trousers, vests and dresses before you can say, yes, that is a specialised stockpile for dog bits to prevent a repeat of the dog rot debacle. A spoiler alert, it isn't going to work. I mean, really. What's the point in carefully removing the nervous tissue if you're just going to leave it dangling around the place like slippery Christmas lights? Hello, Your Highness. Is it that time of year again already? Ha! Well, we'll be requesting clothing, because the leather didn't stretch, plus thread and cloth, for the same reason. Relic Shimmered are asking for legwear, because of course they are, and we're going to skim over the trading this year. Nothing really interesting enough to mention. Yes, I am still annoyed from last year. I have exciting news. The boat is finished. Yes. We're going to do an overview of the entire glorious project now, starting with the hold. Here it is, stuffed with items in satisfying rank and file. I've actually witnessed Solon weep at the sight of it. And then above, where we can see the boat's mess, which is anything but. Decorated now by more statues of geese, sculpted of course by our own Degel. It's never quite as busy as the armoured peach, but we prefer it that way. Up another level, you can see we've added chests and statues of dwarves to the small temple, hatch covers to the access stairs for below, and 4 sparse bedrooms. Onwards and indeed upwards, more bedrooms, smaller than below, to allow for a couple extra, the continuation of the mast, and 6 microcline statues of cats overlooking the temple. Up again, and we have the upper decks of both the forecastle and the stern, hemmed by the dwarves' idea of fencing, that is to say fortifications. Above that is only the mast, including what will be rigging spars. The mast continues for quite a ways up, probably taller than is needed, to be quite honest. But they were enjoying themselves, so I didn't want to interject. And then back down to the deck. the boat is an absolute beauty. I can admit when I am wrong, and in this case I was most definitely wrong. The dwarves are already putting their minds to the task of floating it, so I shouldn't imagine we'll have to wait much longer. I'll tell you one thing that absolutely can't wait anymore is the dwarves' martial training. I'm fed up with the moaning. Perhaps a couple of good whacks with the training weapons will set them straight. To that end, I've created 2 separate training areas and split the dwarves into 2 squads. We have the pulpy plants, led by Nish, and containing Solon, Fath, Nil, Locum, and Tegel. And then the wet wrath, led by a surprisingly keen Olon, with Kubak, Dodok, Kib, Mebzath, and Thob under them. The squads will train on rotation, 3 months of pulpy plants, then 3 of wet wrath. So we still have hands to do real work. Phew! We've completed an awful lot this year, haven't we? Which, considering this was supposed to be a year of relaxation and festivities, is a real surprise. Ha! That's a good point, you know. We were going to... No, it's better that we got it done. 1 step closer to floating the boat, so we shouldn't complain. The boat. Oh, we can't keep calling it that now it's complete. Oh, I know. The series has been going a lot better than I had ever hoped or imagined. I've almost got more people subscribed than I could fit in my home, which is very exciting. So I'll ask all of you. What do you think we should call it? Add a comment and I'll pick the one I like best. Though, please do refrain from saying Boaty McBoatface. I would be obliged to not have to think about 2016 ever again. So, I'll do a little basic greeting, show the viewers the extent of the problem, and introduce you.
And you're sure they'll want to hear from me?
Yes, of course they will.
But I'm just a salty sea spirit. Maybe this ain't the best idea.
Well, we all have to start somewhere. Besides, you're the only person I know that has experience with cats and boats.
Well, yeah, I've seen a cat.
And boats.
Well, boats, yeah.
So, you'll do it?
I guess. But you'll help me with...
Yes, now. Kutam Milunudi Zuamid. Welcome, everyone, to another beautiful day on the banks of the Silken Waters. As you can see, the dwarves are busily working away, but they're having to do so whilst wading through a sea of cats. Lovingly rendered here in charcoal by Fath. I think possibly inspired by her nightmares just a little too. Anyway, given our strange combination of needs, I thought it apt to call on the help of a friend of mine who has experience with both.
Honestly, it was my auntie's cat. I only ever saw it once or twice.
Ha! Modest as well. Welcome to Laborlured, Geraint. It's wonderful to have you.
And it spat me. Nasty little sod. Boats, though. I can help you there.
Wonderful. Our first item of business, however, is going to be the cats. Namely, what on earth are we going to do with them all?
Well, my auntie got this big cardboard castle in her living room for it.
Really?
Oh, aye. Slap bam in the middle. Had to mount the television on the ceiling and sink the couch.
A castle, you say?
Well, actually, I think it was called the Catstle.
Well, that's just silly.
Absolutely. It only ever played with the box.
Here we go. Geraint's just popped out to make a call, but his idea to have a castle, yes, the name has stuck somehow, was one I just couldn't let go. We had all those dolomite boulders from digging out the dry dock, and the dwarves had already been turning them into blocks to make use of them, so here we are. The outer walls are complete, just getting the floor put in, then we'll add a second level with fortifications and maybe a little tower room for a temple or something. We could really do with Fath coming in to remove these few trees. Slight issue there, as she seems to have misplaced her axe. Something to do with the martial training. She swapped it out for a spear and... never mind, I found it on the boat. We'll just wait for her to come pick it up. No, here she... No, that's Nish. No, and Dodok, our chief medical dwarf. Oh, hello, Degel. We'll just wait a little longer. Really want to ensure she finds it. Those trees have to be removed. Imperative. No, finally... No, that's Kubuk. Yes, hello again, Nish. Thobar Dancer and Dodok again. Here's Kib. Where could she be? Yes, hello Nil, Solon, Thob again, though seeing her and yes, hello Kubuk. These two work in the mess on the boat. Dodok, what are you doing? Nish? That's the third helmet you've taken. Oh, forget this. Here. I've noticed the others were tending to ignore the copper fare, so we're finally putting those iron bars to good use in making some battle axes. Perhaps we can tempt Fath with one of these. On top of that, I've set Kib up as another woodcutter to... Wait, why is she socialising in the Armoured Peach on her own instead of working? No, I tell you what, this is the cat's influence, I'm telling you. I don't care how insane it sounds. The sooner we can get the blasted castle up, the sooner we'll have hard-working dwarves again. And if somebody happens to knock over a barrel of fish oil, a lamp, stumble through the only open door and lock it behind themselves, well, who could be blamed for that? I really am at my wit's end. Talking shop, I've turned the jobs on and off, forbade and allowed all tools, set burrows on and off. Short of tying Fath to the trees, I've done it all. And there she goes. Out of nowhere, with no prompting from me, Fath has begun chopping trees again. Ah, Dwarf Fortress, you inexplicable mistress. Oh dear, little out of practice perhaps. Fath has just been hit by a falling tree. She seems fine. Yes, look at her, off doing Fath things. Like a combat drill when I've turned the squads off. Oh, because that's what I enjoy after being squished. Press-ups. No, wonderful. The traders are here. And with them, our outpost liaison and queen. Always lovely to see you, your highness. Oh, what's that? You're a queen, have you? No, get ain't, you're back. Yes, we do. Well, she's visiting anyway. Am I reading that right? Says here she's got a spouse and 2 lovers. Oh, yes, I do try not to draw attention to that little detail. And she's a professional thresher. Har har. Well, yes, it's a job involving hitting crops with a stick to extract the grains and corn. That what they're calling it nowadays. Well, I can see why that big fellow's a running. Well, Nisha's never liked the rough and tumble of... Why is she shouting at him? Mayhaps he has to be number 3. Do you need to get that? Har 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 har. Well, I never. Well, almost never. Let's get the imports dealt with to save our poor expedition leader. We're asking for drinks to try and save time brewing. Reliction would want spears and large gems in return. Good. Now, I think it best if you leave, your highness. Thank you. Now, as we get somebody to fish Nish out of the prepared dish squish he's hiding in the food pots, we can look to the traders. It's a short bit of business this year. We're trading the horrifying dog bone helmet somebody made for some clothing, and trying not to think about the words in that sentence. Ugh. Catzel! Still a damn name, but the bottom layer is complete. We've moved the fish stocks and workshop in there because I thought it a good idea to not build a beautiful structure, only to fill it with dead cats. As you can see, the dwarves have gone a good way towards filling the space with said cats. They made something of a meal of it, each dwarf moving only one cat at a time, almost as though herding the creatures were difficult enough to have birthed an idiom. They can, of course, pass through the doors freely, and so have created a never-ending chore. I can't decide whether this phenomenon is down to dwarven engineering, allowing such a small animal to move a solid rock door, cat flaps that our little idiot secretly installed, or my most horrifying guess, that the cats have found Nish's stash of steroids. On to some exciting news. The boatway has been cleared. We've just this little line of land left to dig out, then we'll flood the dry dock, remove the struts with the lever in the shipyard shack, and she'll be away. Just the tiniest amount of work left to do before we can have the first floating, and then we'll be starting our new life on the lake. I've got chills. One of those little jobs is the top of the castle. Before we get to that, I would just like to add that we've added seating for the adorable little pussums to twine themselves around. We've also added tables for them to knock things off of. Didn't mention it before, but despite the nuisance of them, we don't actually want to cause them any distress. Anyway, here's the top, surrounded by fortifications with a small, currently unused room. No idea what we'll use it for. It's mostly there as decoration. To be honest, the whole project was something of a time waster. I wanted to get Geraint's opinion on the boat before we flooded the dry dock, but he's been so busy on the phone. Bear with me. Let me go find him and we'll cut to the boat to save me building a Ferris wheel or something. Here we are. Managed to drag him away. Sorry about that, Flemmo. It's the band. They're right chuffed you're gonna help us with... Yes, but first I need you to take a look over the boat, remember? Absolutely. So here we have it. What I've been calling the deck. The ballista are just for show. We've no ammo for them even. Little temple to the front, rooms in back. That's good. Spread the weight out. Precisely. Looking up a little, more rooms, statues, fore and aft. Problem with the weight distribution? No, that shouldn't cause any issues. Good. Down below deck, we've got a dining area. Kitchens, mess, I believe it's called. That's right, all looking nice. Then down again, storage in the, bilge, is it? If you say so. All the items are spread out, so again, weight distribution shouldn't be an issue, correct? Absolutely not. And then the ground floor, with the struts. And they'd be what's holding the whole thing up, yeah? Currently, yes. Problem? Mayhaps. What did they use to attach the whole thing together? I can't see no nails. I don't know. Same thing they use on every structure, I suppose. Then that'd be... dwarven glue? I suppose it could be cow cheese, and would explain how they go through so much. They use cheese to build their boat? No, not that I'd call it cheese. Anyway, it was just a joke. Dwarves don't stick things together in any real sense. The things just stick.
Walk the plank.
No, not again.
Walk the plank.
Oh, it's all right. I got my
Walk
opinion
the
for you
plank.
all set. Yes? You'll be needing lifeboats. Har, har, har.
No. I'll be over later. But Benji can clean his own damn trumpet this time.
Forget him. What does he know about anything? I've told the dwarves to start filling the dry dock. Yes, there we go. The flow begins. Where are the nails? Poppycock. I think I'm a pirate because I can grow a beard and only have one leg. Pah! What's millennia of experience compared to dwarven engineering? To think, I paid for that advice with 3 hours of my life. Ooh, look at the water trickle in. Isn't it pretty? Oh. Ooh. Ah. It's like watching a fire. Mesmerizing. Oh, but look at the lake. It's like it's dancing. All those updates and cascades. You can see how the water is being pulled in from adjacent sources as the flow whips across the surface with seeming randomness. It may seem silly, but this is true beauty when it comes to video games, in my opinion. The art of mathematics. And I'm not being facetious, I've got about 5 minutes of recording of just this. It helps that Expansive Cavern from the soundtrack started playing too. Ah, well, that's enough of a look behind the curtain. Laborlured. As you can see, the dry dock is filled. We've cleared away all the land, and the dwarves are just preparing to get on the boat for the floating. Now, at the end of last episode, I requested some comments with suggestions for what we could call the boat. And I've looked through and found one or two that could fit rather well, and what we'll do is, once she's afloat, we'll get Nish and Solon to smash a barrel of ale off her and do the christening. Nish being expedition leader, I would say it only makes sense that he pulls the lever to remove the supports. And Solon, as his lover, wants to stand by him during the ceremony. Everybody else will be on the boat for a party on the lake. I figure 1 or 2 trips around the Silken Waters, and she can dock back up. We'll deal with the arrangements to get her to an actual coast at a later date. Okay, everybody onto the boat. Well, nearly everyone, you know what I mean. That's it. Quickly, quickly. I want this thing launched before the traders arrive and mess everything up. Neil, what are you doing? Why is she just standing there? What's wrong, that dwarf? Cow cheese in your shoes? Switching the burrows on and off fixed her. Dwarf Fortress being Dwarf Fortress. Everybody on? No? Yes? Yes. Where are Nish and Solon? No, let's just get this bridge up so the others stay put. Where on earth is Nish? Oh, he's in the Armoured Peach telling stories to Fath and Cubuck. But they're supposed to be on the boat. I guess them missing the party isn't the biggest deal. At least Solon is ready. Do you know what? I'm done waiting. Solon can pull the lever. No, of course now Nish comes. Ready to launch! No! What? No! But the water was supposed to... How can it just fall apart? None of the buildings have... 8 dwarfen lives. I think I'm going to be sick. And that's Laborlured. Hello, my name is John, the real-world person behind Phlegm Crevice. I would like to thank you for watching this series, unless this is the only episode you've seen, in which case, what are you doing? Who starts at 5? What's wrong with you? In all seriousness, thank you for watching. I've learned a lot with this mini-series that I can now take with me into the next, not least of which is how gratifying it is to have you wonderful people be so lovely about something I created. And with that, look forward to my next series. It will be Dwarf Fortress, but it won't be Laborlured. See you there. Anus Eshon.